believes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Trustee Cushman. The first resolution I'd like to discuss and present to you is our sabbatical resolution. We have two full-time faculty members who have been approved by our sabbatical committee. Amy Flagler, who will be spending a semester researching DEI initiatives. I want to talk about the timeliness of this particular sabbatical request. Professor Flagler will be completing a DEI certificate at Cornell University. This certificate provides competencies in DEI initiatives that relate directly to curriculum and instruction. It's well aligned with the SUNY Gen Ed general education reform that now requires DEI components across our curriculum. So it's very timely, and Amy has done an excellent job at presenting the importance and how she's going to develop a 200-level communication and humanities elective based on this DEI certificate and the research that she is doing. The second professor who is up for sabbatical is Trevor Johnson Siegelman, who's professor of physics. Professor Siegelman is adept at using technology. He's one of our users of high-flex technology, has been teaching online physics for a number of years. His student course evaluations around teaching online physics are exceptional. And I have to point out that it's a very difficult subject to teach online, and he does it exceptionally well. And he's leaning into that by developing online lab report modules that are interactive, using a series of video and instructional supplements to better support both his in-person and online teaching of physics. Myself and the sabbatical committee were very impressed with how well he's already doing this and his goals for integrating technology in this really interactive fashion. And if I was more articulate and more knowledgeable about the specific, about how he's building, including these modules, I would be able to tell you more about it, but it's rather technical in the way that he's developing these codes. So there are the two professors, Amy Flagler in communications and Trevor Johnson Siegelman, who I'm recommending for sabbatical. These are both one semester sabbaticals, which mean they get full pay for one semester for these sabbaticals. I'll pause there and find out if there are any questions. Great. I'll move on to the second item of business. It's approval of our 2022-23 faculty promotions. These faculty promotions will be effective the new year, September 1st, the new academic year. We have 9 faculty being promoted. Dr. Robert Niger is automatically being promoted from instructor to assistant professor as he earned tenure this year. The other 8 faculty members who are being promoted, these are faculty promotions either from assistant professor to associate professor or associate professor to full professor. This is an intense piece of work. Not only do you have to spend a certain amount of time in each of these categories, and many faculty choose to spend a little bit more time so they're well prepared for this. They create a teaching and learning portfolio that's based on a series of letters from their department chair and their peers, a reflective statement, student course evaluations. They write a reflective statement around their service to the college, their service to the institution, and the service to the community. 12 faculty members applied for promotion and 8 received it, which I think speaks to the level of rigor that the committee has put into and the thoughtfulness the committee has put into reviewing and approving at that level these promotions. We have 3 faculty members who are moving from assistant professor to associate professor. This is Delilah Ackerman of Humanities, Patricia Thompson from Conservation, and Shana Turner-Johnson from Nursing. We have 5 faculty members who are moving from associate professor to full professor. Inez Tersovic in Visual and Performing Arts, Kelly Govin in Science and Technology, Izzy Grooms in Health Science and Human Performance, Clinton Krager in Science and Technology, and Jonathan Weissman in Computer Science. And as a member of both of these committees, Sabbatical Committee and the Promotion Committee, I could tell you firsthand the level of rigor and review that the committees have put into reviewing both of these sets of applications. I'll pause there and find out if there are any questions.
This is Jeff. Just one question. When do these promotions become effective?
They become effective September 1st, 2022, the start of the next academic year or the next fiscal year. Really,
Okay.
the next fiscal year. The third item of business is an administrative appointment for Joshua Bell, who serves as a technical specialist at our Victor campus. I have to say that I've worked firsthand with Josh on a couple of things, a couple of projects. When I really saw the value of Josh, there are 2 instances I want to talk about. I could karaoke what's in this report, but I won't do so. When I spent an afternoon at, I believe it was the Maker event at a local library, and I'm forgetting which community it was in, but Josh was working alongside of me. And I was serving to represent science education. Science education is my formal educational background. So I love talking to students and children about science and education and why this is important. And I was doing several activities with them. There was a line out the door to work with Josh Bell. Josh Bell had a drone that he was using and manipulating with a handheld instrument. And there was literally a line out the door to work with Josh so they could control it, so they could work it. And I have to say, single-handedly, I bet he influenced a number of students to go into a science and technology field because of the way that he approached it. The second item I want to tell you about, Josh, is over COVID. COVID was rough on all of us. It was rough on me. It was rough on our students. It was rough on our faculty and staff. Josh did something pretty amazing during COVID. So we have many technology programs at Victor that require a hands-on presence. And what Josh was doing, he was getting designs and information from our students, then going into our Victor Campus Center in the 3D printer and in other activities, and literally building the items that students constructed for them, delivering them to their door or making appointments so that they could pick up what they've seen. Then the students would reflect on it and then try to make improvements upon their design. But Josh volunteered not only to come to the makerspace on a Saturday, but during COVID to be the only person, often in our Geneva Campus Center, doing all of this wonderful work supporting our students, building the designs on our 3D printers and other machines and equipment that we use in our Victor technology programs so that they understood what they were doing in a very hands-on way. But he was explaining what he was building for them, would hand it to them, and then, or leave it for them, and then work with them on a very personal basis so that they can make improvements upon their design. It was one of the highlights of how I saw we as an institution were really responding to the COVID environment. I fully support this appointment for Joshua Bell based on all of the good work and reviews that are formally baked into this administrative appointment, but also on the very personal things I've seen Josh do that perform way above what we normally ask of our employees. So I'll pause there and find out if there are any questions. Great. I think that is the formal sort of business around resolutions that I will be responsible for this meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser. We'll move on to Ms. Palauchuk on a new position title.
Thank you, Trustee Cushman. In your packet, you have a memo and a resolution to approve a new title for the Manager of Technical Support Services. This is an existing position headcount that is being repurposed. John Taylor has submitted a reorganization proposal that Cabinet has agreed to consolidate help desk functions together under a manager position. This is a budgeted position, and the change in duties and realignment of the reporting structure maintains a budget neutral salary line within IT. Are there any questions about the proposed job description?
No, probably.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for continually modernizing all of these positions.
Well, thank you. And I would just give John a shout out because he did an excellent job taking a step back and looking at his organization and putting a proposal together for the needs that'll support the college well. So thanks, John.
Thank you, Michelle, and thanks to everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. That's all of the resolutions. Move on to a strategic thought presentation where we will get into student retention and success and the open education resources funding initiatives. Dr. Kaiser and Ms. Moon.
Good evening again, everyone. I will be opening up for Sarah Moon, Director of our libraries, who really deserves the entire credit for this initiative. But I would like to open up by underscoring the importance of this initiative. The reason that students cite leaving college, nationally and locally, the #1 reason is finance. We know that with our own data, and we know that nationally. What underscores this is we're also the most affordable college option in our community. Tuition has outpaced inflation for well over a decade. It's almost 2 decades. And we know, both locally and nationally, that the cost of instructional materials has risen significantly and has outpaced the cost, the expense of tuition. And in many instances, students are paying almost the same amount or equal every semester in terms of tuition and the cost of course materials. So to recap that, we know that the #1 reason students leave college is financial, and we know that we're the most affordable option. So this is really an important topic. And Sarah has been leading this effort across our campus to reduce the cost of course materials through OER and AIM, and she will explain what AIM is, for a number of years. So it's with this sort of opening that I ask Sarah to start presenting on this material and all the good work that you're doing and where you want to take this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser. And I'm going to share my screen. I know it mirrors what is already in your packet this evening, but I'm going to go ahead and share here. If I do everything correctly, can everybody see my screen now? Awesome. I see thumbs up, so thank you for that. I know Dr. Kaiser just introduced me, but I am Sarah Moon. I'm the director of the Charles J. Meter Library here at Finger Lakes Community College. And for almost 5 years now, I've been involved directly with the OER project and proud to say leading the project here on campus. So this afternoon, we'll just take a few moments to share with you the great work that we've accomplished, providing low cost, not only low cost textbooks and materials, but many times first day access for students to these materials. So as I proceed through here, I just want to mention that on the library's homepage, we do have a link right on there, right to all of the OER information. So if you wanted more, you could definitely either reach out to me or circle back right to the library homepage. So one of the things, and I'm sure you're all aware, we have a tendency to use a lot of acronyms at the college. So I did want to set the stage here with a clear definition of what OER and AIM are for everyone. OER has been around for quite some time. They're open educational resources that are given special licenses that allow faculty and students alike to repurpose the content of the book or the resource itself. So what this means is that faculty and students and staff can use the content in the materials to create a brand new book or resource, just ensuring that the appropriate, what's called a Creative Commons license, is attached and the correct attributions are given. So there's 7 licenses in total that set the parameters of what can be done with the author's content. So if you think about it, this differs tremendously from what we think about our traditional textbook vendors, our Gale or Elsevier, that if we copy and reproduce any of those materials, they fine heavily when they find that there's been a copyright violation of those materials. AIM here, affordable instructional materials, that is a relatively new term on campus. It was just endorsed through Academic Senate in February of this year. They remove the barriers for text materials, very similar to what the OER does. It lowers the cost and the barriers to access, but it removes the OER licensing requirement. What we were hearing from faculty is that they were definitely interested in, have found materials, but the OER licenses are very restrictive in what faculty can do with the course materials in a class. And if they're creating a new text, it really sets those parameters of what they can and cannot do. So in the spring of 2017, we're just going to take a little step back here. Governor Cuomo announced the Excelsior Scholarship Program, and at the same time, he allocated $8 million in the New York State budget for OER materials to help offset the cost, the high inflationary cost of textbook materials. And that summer alone, in 2017, the OER initiative was launched. During the 17-18 academic year, FLCC, we received $20,000 in baseline funding for the OER project. Excuse me. So one of the first questions that I receive is why? Why should I consider using OER in a class? And I think Dr. Kaiser really highlighted and illustrated the importance of OER for our students. Research has shown through the course of these 5 years, when we first started this project, there was very few OER resources available. With large systems such as SUNY investing a lot of money, the access to those materials and courses has grown tremendously. And the pool of research has grown as well. And the research has really shown that students that have access to course materials on day 1 of class are more successful with their studies. It was just mentioned, upstate New York here, finances are huge barriers to student success and completion for our students. And OER resources, we'll take a look at this in just a second here, are a fraction of the cost of a traditional text. And oftentimes, many times they're free, making them much more cost affordable and available on day 1 of class. The second one is the credibility and the adaptability of course content. The faculty really get to own the content of the material in their class when they use an OER. OER textbook editors, they're still college professors, they're experts in their field, but they've opted to use an open platform to publish the content and waive the royalties so that students can have more immediate access to the materials. As I mentioned, SUNY system is a large contributor to the OER world, the universe. The University of Minnesota, Rice University are 2 other large systems that are large publishers of OER. OpenStax, you may be familiar with the term, that is a publisher of OER materials. They right now have over 50 college textbooks and they continually add new ones. If we have some of their text in the library, and if you were to pull a book off the shelf, you wouldn't know that it was an OER textbook. They look like any other traditionally published textbook. So in the spring of 2018, our first OER courses went live. An Oer Implementation team was formed here on campus. We consist of administration, faculty, and staff from across the building. 7 courses. We solicited applications from faculty, knowing that funding was limited. We awarded 7 courses funding so they could be converted to OER materials. And the focus is high enrollment, high impact classes when the grant program began. So just to give you an example of what that looks like, the NS 115 class that IZ Grooms offers in the nutrition area dropped the price of a text from $220 to free. If a student wanted a print copy of a book, because a lot of students want print, the book was printed in-house. It ended up being 2 large volumes, and it reduced the print cost to $33, made it much more affordable for students. 11 sections of 7 sections of NS 115 were offered that first semester, and 9 to 12 sections have run every semester since that course was first approved. Another interesting aspect of OER really is how the faculty decide to implement the material in their courses. Both Kelly and Izzy here compiled texts, compile their text to create a brand new one. It was printed in-house, which reduced the costs tremendously. Trista developed a brand new anthology from scratch using OER literature pieces. Burdock, one of our librarians, compiled the text, created a brand new text from scratch all in-house. And we've had other faculty who've opted, they don't use a text at all. They've embedded the material directly into their course shells. And as you can see right from the beginning, it's estimated about $100,000 in that first year alone students had saved. The project was extremely successful, and due to the success of the launch of the OER project, we received an additional over $33,000 in the 18-19 academic year to convert 12 more courses to OER. So in total, FLCC, we received over $56,000 from SUNY to convert our courses, the courses to OER. By the spring of 2022 semester, by the end of this semester, we will have 24 courses or course sections running as OER and approved as OER. This past semester alone, we have 81 sections running as OER. I fully anticipate that by the end of the spring semester, students or FLCC students will have saved close to $1.4 million. That's accumulated over the course of the semesters since it first launched in 2017. So what does that mean moving forward? For the past couple of years, since the project launched, we focused on course conversion and project sustainability. We participated in a sustainability and OER cohort through SUNY that really did focus on, we created a plan, and part of we're getting into the next phases of the implementation of the plan is the resolution endorsed through Academic Senate. After this semester, we'll be focusing on working with other campus departments to enable the AIM and the OER searchability right within WebAdvisor. So right out of the gate, students will be able to identify the low-cost materials and be able to search for their courses in that manner. The plan is to continue to work with faculty to identify and convert more courses to OER. Definitely look to expand our offerings here on campus and look to offer professional development opportunities for the entire campus. Because this really truly has not just been a library effort, it's been a whole campus initiative. Ryan McCabe in Department of Online Learning has been an instrumental piece of the project here. Burdock Broughton, they were our main OER lead on the project. Unfortunately, they recently resigned. They were our Creative Commons license expert. They were certified in this field, which is a huge loss to the institution, but we're working through, replacing that position. And the committee itself, made up of faculty and staff, and definitely the staff in online learning who support and help our faculty through this process. They, and most importantly, I'd say, are the faculty that have made the commitment to adopt OER on campus and continually work to convert their courses to OER. This is, like I said, the first part was focused on creating a sustainable plan, but there's much more we can do to help our students as we move through this process, this project, many more courses that I can see that we could convert. And that's what I look forward to working with the college campus to do in the upcoming years. Pause here. Any questions?
Questions for Sarah? And not hearing any, I've got one. We know as both you and Jonathan have indicated, anecdotally, we expect that this is going to help with student keeping them from dropping out. Do we know to what extent? Is there any indication of how many students were, or what percentage of students were saving? I see Deborah's face on the screen now. It kind of goes to some of the stuff she's looking at too. But do we know, you know, we could estimate that a 16% increase in student retention because of this or anything of that nature?
So there's national data to support the trend is to,
Okay.
in that manner. That is part of the sustainability plan, is to start to try to tie those retention numbers to the initiative itself. And that was part of the J.R. Dempsey went to some of the SUNY sessions to start to create the plan, to start to connect those dots for the initiative itself. But yes, that is in the to-do phase of the project.
It's fantastic for sustaining it and perhaps expanding it. We'd want to see that. So, other questions for Sarah? Fabulous program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'd be pleased to take a motion from the committee to adjourn the meeting. And, just call out.
So
Jonathan
moved. This
moves.
is Donna.
This is Joan, I second.
Okay. And so all in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand or say aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
You know, fine. Chairman Martin, that concludes the Ed and Planning meeting.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Always packed full and always very interesting and timely. We appreciate that to everyone. Moving on to Facilities and Finance, Trustee Jeff Assels, please lead us.
Yes, thank you. I'll call the committee meeting to order. And note that the first thing is to review the committee minutes from March 2nd. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? Okay, if not, we'll move on. The first item of business to discuss is the operating budget and the finance report. And Adam, I'll invite you to comment on that.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So a couple items to update here. The first one to update is the stimulus funds. On March 9th, the Department of Education issued a memo to all HERF award recipients, notifying us of a no-cost extension to our HERF grant awards over $1,000. So the new deadline is June 30th, 2023. So the end of next June. So that gives us a little over a year to fully expense all of our HERF funds, HERF 1, 2, and 3. HERF 2 and 3 have been expensed. We still have a balance on HERF 3. In the next few weeks, I'll be working with our controller to reconcile all of these expenses. Earlier this week, the 2+2 committee, which was formed as a shared governance process to identify initiatives under HERF guidelines, met this past week to discuss the open initiatives and get final proposals, quotes for those initiatives. This will allow us to better understand a true unallocated balance, which currently stands at about 1.2 million. The unallocated portion will then be captured as either lost revenue or reimbursement for fees associated with the pandemic's response from the college and applied to the fund balance. The second quick update is just a budget update for fiscal year 22-23. We are getting closer to finalizing a draft budget as all departments have submitted their budgets. I'm currently meeting with all cabinet members and their staff to better understand requests, and I'm looking forward to a further discussion at the Board of Trustees retreat later this month regarding the budget. For a finance report, I'm going to share my screen briefly. Okay, so this is the...
Adam, can you make it just a little larger?
Yes, absolutely. Better?
There we go. Much better. Thank you.
Yeah. Oops, where'd it go? Hold on. There we go. Okay, so this is the fiscal year 21-22 operating budget as of February 28th, 2022. We are exactly halfway through the fiscal year at this point in time. Overall, our revenue is at 60% of the budget, and this is mostly due to tuition and fees, which are captured at the beginning of each semester. State aid, as of this report, is at 25%. If you recall, our quarterly payments were on hold as we had not yet submitted our annual report. The SUNY Budget Office had worked with us and processed our quarterly payments for the second and third quarter payments during the month of March. And those payments totaling $6 million will be reflected in next month's financial report. So we will see a catch up in that in next month's report. And as a follow-up for the annual report, we have submitted it and we are working with SUNY on some final questions they had regarding that report. So making progress on that end. Last month, there was a question on the non-credit line. So on the non-credit line, there was a budget of $660,000 in revenue, but only $132,000 expense. It represents about 20% of the budget, and yet we are halfway within the fiscal year. These lines encompass our workforce development programs, and some revenues and expense lines are covered by grants, which are sometimes not realized until later in the fiscal year. And as you can see historically, last year, 2021, we are pretty much in the same fiscal position as far as revenue received, 21.35% last year compared to 20% this year. So we are on target, and after having a conversation with workforce development staff, they are confident that they will again meet those objectives. On the expense side, so for total expenses, fiscal year to date, we're about 45%. Slightly higher than this point in time last fiscal year. However, we are in a more somewhat normal operating environment, so that is expected to have a higher expenses compared to last year. Let's see. Utilities are up over about 14% from last year. Again, operating environment, energy usage is up, so that's not a surprise, and it still falls within less than about 50% of where we are in the fiscal year budget. The supplies and expense line, we did have a couple of questions regarding this. It is a fairly broad line. It covers a lot of items in both supplies and expenses. Some of those are construction supplies, auto supplies, library media, IT and AV technology supplies, as well as subscription to memberships and travel and training. So it's a very broad category. And there is a possibility of working to kind of further delineate that so that there is better visualization into what those actual supplies and expenses cover. As I indicated, this line also includes federal stimulus funds in the supplies and expense line. So that's why if you look at the approved budget, this line is roughly 10 million or so. So that's why this number is a lot larger than the budget. Because it does include the federal stimulus funds that are included in that. And as I did indicate earlier, we received an extension on the stimulus funds and working to reconcile these lines and to see if we can split out the stimulus expenses from the normal operating expenses so that we can have a better look at how those line out. The next report here, this pretty much the same exact report. However, this is without federal stimulus, so the federal aid here line is taken out. And this just goes to show what our revenue streams would be have we not received the federal stimulus funds. On the expense side, so the federal stimulus lines are still in there. However, it's a little more difficult to remove the expenses from her funds. For one, there are many expenses that we would have had in order to navigate the pandemic, like IT upgrades to modified delivery of courses, medical testing, and cleaning supplies. There are also expenses we would not have had if we didn't have stimulus funds, such as student debt write-off. So as we navigate out of COVID and back to a typical operating environment, my staff and I continue to work to clarify expenses on the COVID and non-COVID expenses and how it affected the operating budget in the fiscal year. This concludes my financial report.
So Chairman Jeff, I have a question. Adam, if you could go back up to the revenue side, specifically other counties. I see that's lagging a little bit with regard to revenue. I think we budgeted north of 8 million, and it's showing, I don't know, about 35% or so. Once you pull that up, maybe you could expand upon that a little bit in terms of anticipated revenue and that $5 million difference or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think if you look at historically, last year, almost exact same spot, 36% last year, 36% this year. So that is typical, and it falls in line with the semesters. So we go into the fiscal year or the semesters, and then typically bill out to the counties later on after we understand what the out-of-county student population is and which courses they had taken. So these expenses will ramp up as we get further into the semester and into the portion of the summer as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then on the expense side, well, maybe folks may not see it as an expense, but grant activity. I'm curious if you could maybe just kind of enlighten the entire board why that's there underneath expense, and also maybe speak to the fact that it's about 16% thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past, so when the board approves the budget, grant activity is not part of that. So that's why this is at the bottom portion, because we don't want to include it in our approved budget or the total expenses for the college, because it's not a budgeted activity, so to speak. As we receive grants throughout the fiscal year, we capture them on the revenue side, and then again, we'll expense them, and it's basically an in and out. As far as the activity, it is very low. Again, comparatively to last year, it's a little bit lower than typical years. And this is, so there's two things. One is we probably should be able to provide a better fiscal report on grant activity and how that activity is going. We recently hired an associate controller. The associate controller is responsible for grant management on the fiscal side. Once our associate controller gets her feet wet, kind of moving forward in daily operations, we will be sitting down and working on developing a financial report for grant activity as well. But as far as the trend, I'll have to get a better answer for you. Grant expenses, grant receives and grant expenses fluctuate year to year, depending on when the grant comes into the college, how they're expensed out. And so I will get a better answer for that either prior to the next board meeting or at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. And I like your suggestion of maybe a little deeper dive on grants as well at some future meeting. I appreciate that. That's
Yes.
all I have, Chairman Jeff.
Okay, thank you. I have just one follow-up question. The revenue that comes in from other counties is revenue that's paid essentially to the college. Is that correct? That's our budget.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Those are the chargebacks.
Right. So when other counties or other institutions, say MCC, back charge Ontario County, the expense for that shows up on the county budget, not on our budget, correct? Is that right?
I believe you are correct. Yes.
Okay. I'd be curious at some point as to whether or not we take in more money as a college than the county pays out to other institutions.
Yes, and that would be, I believe I have some information on that
Okay.
throughout all community college. So I will try and dig that up and
Okay.
provide that as well.
Yeah, in fact, maybe it's even in the last year's budget proposal. I can't remember. I'm just curious, that's all.
Yep.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding the budget or anything else that Adam has presented? If not, we can move on to the facilities update. And I don't, Adam or Kathy, are you doing that?
I am doing that. Adam is helping me. He's driving it. which is good.
Oh, okay.
All right, it's a team effort here. So I was asked to do a little more detailed review of the schedule and the construction costs for the nursing project. And actually, this is a really good time because we're in our last, we got about 6 weeks left. So the dollars, especially on the contingency, are solid, and I can speak to that. So this is just obviously the rendering that was presented in 2019, and then this is the real construction that's happening now. And the only difference of that photo, we do have FLCC. There is a sign at the main entryway, and we will add the Sands family part of that sign in the next couple weeks. Next slide, please. So I want to go back just to look at the timeline. You know, we start construction in 2020, but there's a lot that happens beforehand, right? We have to get the concept, you have to program. So I just want to really highlight some of that. I started here in 2014, and I know that there have been lots of conversations probably with the nursing program is earlier than that. But in 2017, people started asking me about, you know, the nursing program is doing really well. It's going to grow. Do you have any idea of costs, et cetera? So at the time, I think the chairperson was Mary Carriol, and she had a passion to really look at the future for that. And in 2019, we were able to get a little bit of funding, and I brought in an architectural firm solely to look at the existing suite as it was and renovate that. It was not going to increase the beds, even though she knew she needed that, but even if we renovated it just to make it a little more modern. And at that time, and that was probably in January of 2019, it was about $1 million to renovate and really not give her enough, but it gave us a feel of some of the renovation dollars. I would say it was August or September of that same year, Deborah Ortloff and Lewis came to me and said, we really feel good about the program. We've looked at the numbers. We need to increase it. We have a possibility of a donor. We need a presentation in October. And as I say, this is August, September. So we did it. We brought in an architecture firm who is the architect of record today. We went through some programming meetings, and we were able to come up with the rendering. One example is on the first slide that you saw, along with rough order magnitude costs for the program, which was expanding the program, knowing that we needed to double the capacity for the requirements of the future. So we presented that, and we got a formal donation of $3 million in December. We secured it. Also in December, we got funding from the association, the student corps. So that's all happening in 2000. We finish all that at the end of the year in 19. Next slide, please. So 2020, I believe that New York State did hit their due date of April 1st, and the budget was blessed. And at that time, we were able to get matching from SUNY. So we had about $7.5 million. With that, we were able to commission the architectural firm to start the design in 2020. During that time, we were programming and getting devil in the detail. And it's important for you to understand that there's a lot of time that we spend beating that up. We then brought on LaChase Construction, always concerned about costs. And Dr. Nye, I can't see your face, but I can see you going like this. Because I know that we were very concerned, and we needed to be within those dollars. We were not comfortable going back to get additional funding. So we brought in LaChase. We went through several iterations of what do we need in the program? What would we like in the program to really understand how to fall within those dollars? And quite frankly, we ended up reducing the 4th floor lobby space. We also, original design included HoloLens, which would be adjacent to the 3rd floor of that area, which would require a lab renovation, which is quite costly. So we took that out, and we kept HoloLens up on the 4th floor. Next slide, please. And that was able to get us within a good cost estimate of about a little more than between $5 and $6 million of total construction dollars. At that point, we put together the bid documents, which went out in February 2021. And again, I want to spend a minute. The bid documents included alternates. And we were not going to affect the program. But this included the HoloLens, as I talked about. It also included the HoloLens, keeping it on the 4th floor and giving it a facelift. We have that as an alternate. Talking with the professor, she could have lived with that space if we didn't modify it. It included, example, radiant heat on snow melt coming in. Do you need it? Uh-oh, what happened? Doesn't matter. Do you need it? No, you don't need it. It also included, what's happening?
I don't know. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
There we go.
Thank you. So we had 10 alters, included a call, interactive call button intercom system, which the nursing program did not have. They have like a pretend one. But do they need it? They don't need it. But we wanted those as alternates because if we could afford it, we were going to include them. We also had allowances. We all know that when you're looking at a site excavation, we have concerns, especially that site back there. So we allowed for some allowances for that. We were looking at the utilities, the support connecting into the building, the rock, etc. So we wanted some allowances in the job so that we were able to be covered. Next slide, please. So the construction schedule, as we all remember, the O building was removed, and we did go to auction to make that happen, which I will tell that story for many years. But once those buildings were removed, we still had all of these supports, right? They had poured footers, and the people that removed the trailer were not going to be able to do that efficiently. And the good news is we already were getting the contractors on board and they had the equipment. So we were able to do that. The construction began in May. We also, at that time, we were doing core samples, we were staking out utilities, etc. So there's a lot that happens, but with all of that, we did complete phase 1, August of 2021, and phase 2, substantially complete, is in May 13th. In my mind, I think they're going to hit that. There may be a few things just for some deliveries, but I would hope that the C of O will happen before June 1st. Next slide, please. So let's talk about construction costs. And this, after we awarded the project was bid in by discipline, if you will. So it's general, because of the dollar value, you really have the Wicks law and you have to follow that. So we have general construction, HVAC, plumbing, electric. And I'm just sharing those dollars so you get a feel for where those monies were. If you look at it, what was unique to the job is the air handling unit was an early purchase. And I want to say we went out just for the unit probably in November. And this was before really COVID crazy. It was knowing that we needed to get that unit on the roof and have it operating by fall of that year of 2021. So that's why we did that. And that was literally just purchasing it and having it land on the site. And then in the air handling unit, HVAC contract, it was a part of their installation, et cetera. So the base construction proper is 5.3 million. We allocated a 5% contingency, which on the next slide, I want to talk about that in a little more detail. And then we have a FF&E, which is a fixed furniture, fixture, and equipment. And that was a list that we had developed with the nursing staff and IT and had a really good feel for that number. So we needed to include those dollars in the project, giving us a total construction project of 6 million. You ask where the other $1.5 million went. Those are the soft costs associated with the design fees, the construction management fees. And then we have testing. We need to have a third party come and do testing pertaining to concrete mixtures, et cetera. Next slide, please. So what happens with contingencies? So contingency, I'd been out of the design industry, but I had recent conversations, obviously, with LaChase. I also talked with some consulting firms and some other construction firms. And we're at about industry standards 10%, depending. Sometimes it's higher. And all of this is dependent on the amount of time up front. And I can't emphasize that enough. The details of the drawings, obviously material costs, where they are in the world, the site conditions I talked about, and the defined scope. So that time up front with the nursing and with having LaChase on board really helped us to be able to hone into those dollars. And I also believe it's dependent on the team experience, the site reviewing, working through those potential challenges. We had a lot of discussion about the potential challenges out back. One of those, there is a major switchgear adjacent to the construction where we excavated. A main electrical feed comes through that exactly where we were excavating, and actually we thought it was going to be where the new elevator is going to be. Very concerned about that. So we were able to stake it out, and we found out it was a little south of that or toward D-Lot. Not all the way, but closer to where the O building was, kind of in between, but we didn't know the depth of it. Very concerned about the depth of it. We ended up bringing in a company with a laser measurement so we could understand the depth. And it landed in a good place. And when we talk about some of the contingency dollars, we had to really take care of that main feed coming in, because we did not want it's encased in concrete in 1970. So we were worried about bothering it. So we had to do some additional things with that. But that was some of the upfront work that we did. Next slide, please. So here's a contingency, and I want to explain this because when Adam and I met today, and there was a couple questions associated with it. These are dollars that we have spent. So if we go to the site conditions, which include not only outside, but it's what happened in the building, what happened outside. We have spent $91,000, which is 34% of the contingency. And if you look at the total construction dollars of $6 million, that's that percentage. And I share that because that's how we get a gut feel of what's happening. And are we in a comfort zone or aren't we in a comfort zone? And quite frankly, the site conditions, I would have thought it would spend every single bit of that 5%. So we're in good shape. But some examples of the site condition, I talked about that main electric coming in. And because we had to be careful with that, we had to do some hand digging. We had to do some support around that. We had to move some of that soil back, and that was an additional $25,000. We also had silly things. We had finished phase 1, the painting came in, then the furniture came in, we banged up the wall, we had to repaint it. So those are little things that just happen. And another larger cost pertaining to the site conditions, we had a access ladder to the new roof that was per code, but then the code changed a little bit and got more stringent. And believe it or not, in the design phase after those drawings went out. So that was a $25,000 increase because now the ladder has a harness and you got it. It's a very complicated thing. And quite frankly, all we have is a roof drain and a little exhaust fan, but we still have to access it. So those are examples of that. And then I have some detail on the next slide associated with what I call customer product issues and nice to have. We can go to the next slide and I can spend a little time on those. So customer changes. This is what happened. There's kind of different scenarios. Technology changes for HoloLens in the Sims lab. After we programmed it, the drawings went out. The HoloLens, we found out that we needed additional data and we needed a couple additional, the monitors weren't right. So we had to modify those. In the simulation bay, we have a computer and all the technology to move the mannequin and to do all of those things. But the company came back and said, you need more fiber and more power. So we had to add to that. And that was just, it's a change. The simulation bays, we put them in. So physically, we put them in similar to the other bays, other than the technology. They did not have doors. They had curtains just like all of the other ones. That was a problem after the nursing staff were using them. So we had to put in pocket doors, which is a renovation to the 2 that are there. And then in the new install, we didn't include them, and we had to include them. Not a renovation, but it's an additional work along with additional doors. Exam room, not a big deal, but once it was installed, I really need more storage. And then the head wall for the patient bays, we designed it based on what they had. They ended up forgetting that I think it was a vacuum port or a compressed air port. I can't remember, but that was that addition. And then lastly, again, these aren't really big things, and we had the contingency dollars. a clock, an additional call button. This was in the bays proper. So we have 12, we'll have 24. Phase 1, we did not install a receptacle. It's a battery operated analog clock. Not a big deal, but then the nursing was like, we're going to have 24 of those. We don't want to deal with the batteries. So we ended up beating that up, but as of 2 weeks ago, we're not doing it. And that was because we really don't need to do it. And to go back to those bays at this point in time and cut in that receptacle for a clock, the nurses are living without it right now. Funny kind of side story, we did look at an atomic clock, which LaChase suggested, which is controlled by radio waves out of Colorado, and I'm speaking a little out of my comfort zone. Long story short, he brought his atomic clock here and it doesn't work in our bunker of FLCC, the concrete blocks. So that didn't work. But we also, so we're going to put in the batteries. I think it will be fine. I know that they're wireless clocks that can be synchronized. So as time goes on, we'll see. But in the end, we ended up not doing that. Next slide, please. Product issues, interesting. So roofing material, this was COVID. This was a COVID problem. We had EDPM, a particular style, and we could not get it. They could not find it. Even when they bid on it, they had it. So we went back and forth, and we ended up paying an upcharge just to get something. And it's very similar. And at that point, of course, you have to look at the insulation value for the energy code. So it's a much bigger animal. But that was that additional cost. Corner guards, what was specified did not work. We ended up having to buy stainless steel, which, hindsight, we probably should have done, but we were trying a different product. The architect was trying a different product. Air handling unit, we talked about, we had to order that ahead of time. I was very involved with it just because of my background. We spec'd it, it got here, yay. We forgot one thing. We forgot to look at where the access panels are, and they're about 2.5 feet above the roof, which means that to go into each one of those, we have to get on a ladder to do that. And we want to get a platform on that. So that happened. It happened. Next slide, please. So nice to have this. This is a fun slide. So the architect had several features, if you will. Do we need them or don't we need them? And that's always a conversation. But we decided to use these monies in December. So we waited until we were pretty sure we didn't have any major burps, if you will. The murals, we ended up, yes, we're going to do it. We worked with Liz Brunell with computer graphics. With that group, the theme was nature. And these literally are photographs, and I'm going to make the association of wallpaper, and it takes over a whole wall. So we had competition. There were 24 submissions. There was a committee from the nursing, from our marketing, myself, and the architect. We selected 5, and 4 will be put in the existing area that we just renovated, the addition that we're finishing up in May, and then we're keeping 1 for the lobby when we do the flex lab and we add to that lobby, because it'll just look perfect there. So that was a lot of fun. And I tried to put it on PowerPoint and it didn't give it justice. So when you guys walk through, it'll be a nice thing to see. And I think the students had a lot of fun, and Liz Brunell is excellent as always. So that was great working with them. And the green wall is literally that. It is a plant, but it is more of a moss. Architect keeps telling me it's maintenance free. I'm not sure I believe him, but that will go into the lobby area, and it'll be right above the stairs when you walk in, and it'll have a really good visual, a really good presence. And then the name, the Sands family, will be integrated in that somehow. And it's not there yet. So that'll be nice, but I think we're all excited to add just a little bit of flavor as opposed to just programmatic for the facility. Next slide, please. Well, let me stop. So this is just where we are, and I'm closing with that, but are there any questions associated with contingency? I mean, I can give you the whole list of every single item and all of the RFPs and all of those things, but I was trying to just keep it at a pretty high level.
No, it's Jeff, Kathy.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your last slide here. So
Okay.
doing all the things you've talked about, you're still going to have this these percentages left?
Yeah, well, we definitely have the contingency left of 16% plus the 7th. So that's a surprise. Yes. And FF&E, of course, my friend Katie from nursing just gave me a list of a few more products, but
Sure.
we'll be less than the FF&E original
Okay.
of 500.
That's really
Yeah.
good to be able to do everything and still have something left over.
Oh, I feel great about
Yeah,
it.
you should. That's
We
great.
all feel good about it, especially in the climate, Jeff. Honestly, the climate just really concerned us. We're still a little, the furniture, they're telling me it'll all be here on May 6th. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then some of the technology may be a little late.
Okay.
But we're all very proud of what we did in the climate that we had to work. And that's myself, the design team, Leche, all the contractors were great. And quite frankly, we were blessed that it's this, when the same people from the company did phase 1 and then they all came back and did phase 2, right?
Yep.
So they learned in phase 1. So now these guys are they know how to do it. It's been a real joy. And most jobs that I've been on for this length of time, you don't see that. Very rare.
Yeah. Very good.
Jeff, if I might.
Sure, go
First
ahead.
of all, Kathy, thank you. It's no small feat, the efficient and tight and very focused project that you have and continue to lead. This is it's certainly quite large, and your experience forward has really benefited us all. So thanks for your work and for this extra detail. My question really is around, any anticipated future rising cost or supply chain. You've hinted on that and even referenced it, but anything at all that might put a wrinkle in this in our final month or two?
No, we've procured everything. So I'm comfortable to say no to that.
Okay. And even on a punch list, understanding you've got a target date for completion, but also knowing there's a follow-up a list or so, you're still comfortable with what that might look like?
Yes.
Good.
And
Well,
to spend a minute on that, we've had a really good experience with people coming to the site continually. So the punch list is not going to be something that the architect flies in from wherever and has only been there twice, right? So the architect, the engineers as needed, they're on site at least once every 2 weeks, if not more, along with, LaChase having somebody there, and me and my staff, we walk through. So I think that's really helped some of the major surprises, if you will, that we've all experienced. So that's why I'm as confident as I am with that.
Well, again, thank you. I just have one final, and that's from a landscaping standpoint.
Yes.
As we head into your timing's really just perfect in terms of May. And do you anticipate that going smoothly? And is that something that is factored into this budget, or is that maybe those dollars fall elsewhere?
Thank you. That's a good question. We have another allowance of that 50. We have, I want to say $10,000 of allowance for landscaping. We have minimal landscaping going in now. So we will have a sidewalk and really the large grasses, if you will, kind of following that sidewalk. But there's another area that I took away from the design group, and we allocated dollars because we really wanted that to be an experience with the conservation, the horticulture, and my ground staff. So instead of getting plants and throwing them in May so the contractors can get out, we're going to spend some time, see how that sun, do some, spend a little time there. So in the next year, we'll have the dollars associated with it and to do the right plantings. We will have a little bit that will finish. The grasses will be fine. They won't be all the way up, but it'll be halfway decent in May. But I really didn't want to rush that, and I wanted to hold that experience for the college.
Again, impressive. On time, on budget. Kudos to all.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions for
Yes, Jeff, this is Rich, and I just wanted to also say that this has been a project that Kathy and her crew have done a marvelous job in planning in advance and trying to catch all of those things that are a gotcha that add to the contingency expense line. And for all the projects I've been involved with over the years with the county, I've never seen a breakdown that's so comprehensive and complete on how the contingency has been used. It's quite eye-opening, and it really does a job of clarifying the issues when it comes to being able to understand why contingencies are built and where the money goes. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
This is Donna.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
I was just curious if we have put into place or we're thinking about the dates for soft opening, hard opening, ceremonies, etc.
I am not aware of them. I wait for someone to tell me that, Donna. But I know it needs to happen. I mean, one of the things we are doing, and it hasn't gone into super detail, but one of the things that I had talked with nursing about is during their graduation nursing, at least to have it open for the students and the parents. And Adam, I don't know if you've had any conversations about that, but we're happy to show it off whenever, but it does need to have some kind of a formal event. And I don't know if Lewis is on or not, but he may be able to speak to that.
Yeah, I'm here, Donna. This is Lewis. I wanted to hear this presentation first, but
To make sure we were,
yeah,
yeah.
waiting for this
Oh, man.
to see where we were.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know, and I just sent a text off to Rob. Actually, I'm sort of thinking as I heard this, maybe August for ribbon cutting. Obviously, that depends on the sands and all that stuff. But it sounds like August will give us a nice window, so everything will be done and look
Pretty it up.
pretty,
Yep.
and all that stuff. So that's at least my initial thought after hearing progress.
Thank you.
And I'll follow up real quick. This is Adam. Kathy and I have discussed doing a walkthrough with the Board of Trustees, and I am going to get with Dr. Nye on some possibilities on that. So we will be providing an opportunity for the board to kind of see it after, the May 13th completion as well. So more information will be coming on that soon.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? If not, thanks for the presentation. Great level of detail, and I would simply echo what everybody else has already said.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Moving on, we have a resolution to renew a lease. And Adam, you want to address that briefly?
Yeah, real brief. This resolution is for a lease extension for the FLCC Art Space 36, which is located at 36 Main Street in the city of Canandaigua. This is for a 1-year agreement with 1-year option to renew again. The first year, $17,880. Second year, $18,600. The first year is a very slight increase over the current rent that we have been paying, a little over $17,000.
Any comments or questions? Okay, we'll consider that approved. You have a couple of informational items for us, Adam. You want to address those?
Yeah, the first informational is a renewal of their default prevention program for delinquent borrowers. This is our debt collection service. This is the first of two renewal options underneath this agreement.
Okay.
And the last item there is the budget transfer report, which is standard in all these reports. Explanations for each transfer is on the right-hand side, and these are zero-sum transfers within departments.
Okay, any comments or questions on either of those items? Okay. If not, any other items to be brought before the committee? As we adjourn, we'll wish the chairman of the board a happy birthday and take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn, Rich.
Okay, a second?
I'll second Barb Hamlin.
Okay, thanks, Barb. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, we stand adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Essos. We appreciate that. We will take a short break and we will re-adjourn at 6 p.m. sharp. 6 p.m. We'll see everyone.
Okay.
All right. My car's in back, isn't it? Is my car in back? If my phone rings and I don't pick up, it's because I'm making noise in the bathroom and don't wanna.
Somebody has their mic on and we can hear husband and wife talking.
Someone has their mic on and shouldn't have.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. As we're coming back on screen, there we are. Thank you to all of our IT folks and making this event happen. Welcome to the April 6, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting with Finger Lakes Community College. We will call to order once again, reconvene here at 6 p.m. We just concluded 2 committee meetings and would like to, right off the top, welcome back our fellow trustee, Donald Cass. It's splendid, Don, to have you back amongst us, and delighted to see you. And I can see the physical applause and the likewise warm feelings that we extend to you, and we're delighted you're back. So glad to see you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you.
All righty. I understand we also might either have or be having some guest students possibly this evening. Welcome to each of you and anyone else that's here as part of the proceedings and part of the meeting itself. Again, we'll call to order the meeting and welcome any community or public input. We, the Board of Trustees, value your input for members of our college community. We encourage your participation and ask you if you'd like to participate, please identify yourself prior to speaking, and we'd be happy to allow up to five minutes for your comments, more if necessary. Anyone at all that would like to speak or comment at this time? Anyone at all? Okay, hearing or nor seeing anyone at this point in time, we'll continue on with the meeting and really a celebration and a thank you to our provost, Dr. Jonathan Kaiser. And I'm going to turn to several of our fellow trustees here to speak some words, if you will, and some thanks and appreciation. And start out with our vice chair, trustee Joan Geis. Joan?
Jonathan, I just want to thank you. And my memory of you will be how you always put a happy face on everything. You were always so positive. You were always smiling, despite the chaos that might be going on around you. And I want to thank you as the former chair of the Education Committee for all the additional time you put in putting together programs for the committee. And I really appreciate it. And I wish you very well in your future pursuit in your new job. And I was very glad they got the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you, Joan. We appreciate that. And turning to our fellow officer here, Donna, trustee Donna Mihalik, if you might have a few words, please. You might be on mute. So I think we'll just pause there for a moment with trustee Mihalik and turn to trustee George Cushman. And if you might impart a few words.
Well, what words? Donna probably summed it up. What words can describe Jonathan? But Jonathan, I definitely want to thank you for the work you've done and your openness to bringing on a little more focus on retention and the things we worked on for the committee. I found you, as I think Jones put it perfectly, you put a happy face on everything, always very positive, very optimistic, which we certainly appreciate and admire, and just very authentic and humble in the things that you do. Wish you all the very, very best.
Thank you, trustee Cushman. We appreciate that. Trustee Mihalik, are you back with us by any chance? Maybe not. Okay. Provost Kaiser, we'd like to give you the floor and give you the opportunity for a few words, please.
First, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to serve as Provost and Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs. This has truly been a highlight of my career, and I'm so thankful for it. Thank you for, it's a wonderful college, and it's a wonderful community. And it's a wonderful community because it's comprised of dedicated, talented people, such as the Board of Trustees, who are so engaged, but also a cabinet and administration, faculty, staff, and students who are dedicated to the mission of this college and who have graciously supported me throughout this time here. A special thank you to all of the board members and cabinet for welcoming me to this community and supporting me along the way. It's been a highlight of my career, and I am so pleased and thankful that I've had this opportunity. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Provost Kaiser. We are delighted. We're excited for you and this next opportunity that awaits in Minnesota and the Midwest. And it is bittersweet. We have a formal resolution of appreciation that really does acknowledge and recognize the important work and how you've advanced our college. And that's something that our board clerk Penny will be getting to you formally. It's framed and something that we're really deeply excited about sharing with you and acknowledge you in this particular way. So we hope that we have an opportunity to cross paths again, wherever that might be. And we know that greatness really does await you. So as it already has been demonstrated. So on behalf of all the trustees, as well as our college community, thank you very much and best wishes and safe travels. Great. Yes, applause. Thank you, Trustee Astles and others for that. It's certainly appropriate. So thanks again, and we will continue on with the business of the meeting, but great way to start things off. Approval of the consent agenda. We have 7 items there listed in front of us. Please, I'd entertain a motion if you could name yourself and then a second, please. Please, a motion.
Steve, this is Joan. I move we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you,
Barbara
Joan.
Evelyn, I second.
Thank you, Barb. Any questions or comments? Any other additions? Anything we've missed, Penny, with regard to our consent items?
No, we're all set. Thank you.
Great. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you. 10-0. Old business. I don't have any old business, but maybe trustees do. They would like to advance or bring up. Any old business to bring in front of this group? Okay. Thinking, pondering. Moving on to the chair's report, I have a couple items, and Trustee Jeff Astles has graciously agreed once again to chair our nominating committee for the 22-23 upcoming year. And Trustee Astles, maybe you have a word about that?
No, I've sent out an invitation to be on the committee to a couple of trustees. I've heard back from one, I'm waiting on the other, but that's okay. We'll have a nominating committee put together and, do our due diligence and come back with a slate of officers for a future meeting.
Terrific, great. Yeah, our plan is to present those in May and then ultimately as a
Yes.
group vote that in June. So thank you for your willingness to serve, as well as those other trustees as well. We do have a retreat. It was mentioned earlier in one of our committee meetings scheduled for Friday, April 15th. And just a quick highlight with regard to the agenda. Again, thank you to the many trustees that helped craft and construct. It is really your agenda, our collective agenda, and we appreciate the input. That's something that I think in detail and with time will be sent out very shortly following this meeting. But again, we'll start with a budget review in our first hour, and then some senior education. With regard to Road Scholar, we're going to have some specific opportunities heard from there so that we might understand and learn what lies ahead. Our equity, inclusion, and diversity, Dr. Covington is going to lead us through that exercise and an update. And then we will close out and finish strongly with our student success, as well as hear an update on the Aspen pathways via SUNY and Aspen from some fellow trustees and Dr. Nye, who participated in that process, but have a collective interactive discussion. So again, set aside 4 hours, 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Friday, April 15th. And we look forward to doing that virtually, as well as including all of you. So thanks again for helping construct that agenda. That really is my report this particular month. Any questions or comments? Okay, Dr. Rob Nye, President's Report, please, if you would.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. It's really tough to have a report when you're losing a peer and a second peer from our cabinet here in the next few months, starting with Jonathan and then John. But part of my key update is that we need to do the searches for their replacements, sadly. And we're in the middle of the one with JK Executive Strategies for the CIO. And we'll be looking the next few weeks in terms of considering through the RFP and then for the board approval for a provost search, hopefully for the spring. We already talked about the 2+2 update. Adam mentioned that, but I also would like to mention very importantly that through the efforts of John Taylor and Adam Rathman, that we're looking at the possibility that we can't do under our stimulus funds, but in other ways, the potential for moving to Banner from Lucy and Colley. And I think that's really important. And John's set to have a good session for us at the end of April. Hopefully we'll have an update for you at the May board meeting. Fortunately, this is great news on Jonathan's watch, and that is that the nursing curriculum has been approved by the state, which we were a year behind and delayed and made things a little bit rough for the nursing department. And that's really excellent news. I did want to highlight the when we talk about student success, the great work that Jonathan's also done in terms of working to get midterm grades started. And I put the numbers in there in my report, and also student progress surveys and how that fits into notifications and trying to work with students. And I think it will fit into our bigger picture of student success down the road. And that also includes the chatbot. I gave you an update that Jonathan had put together with his folks that I think is important in terms of how we are able to leverage technology to reach our students in different ways, but also expedites the ability, not from just technology, but to get the face-to-face connection to the students much sooner. That's the key to chatbot, not the technology, but the more rapidity of face-to-face connection. Hope you enjoyed that PowerPoint. I do want to highlight, thanks to Carol Urbatus and Sim Covington, Urban League is going to have students come visit us in April. And I think that's important.
That's great.
It's getting more of our connection into Rochester, which is in Monroe County, which is important. So, and also to let you know, put on your calendars, if you're interested to stop by on the approved student days, done differently, but back in person again, which is wonderful, on April 9th and 23rd for the trustees. If you have a chance, stop by. See the great work that's being done in the admissions and enrollments office areas and the teamwork with the faculty and staff on those days to show and showcase and highlight our college to folks that have been accepted and interested to come to our college. Now it's time to hook them in and get them to our great college. And finally, through the great efforts of, quite frankly, the city of Canandaigua and then Kathy Ahern, we're going to have a bike station so that there'll be bikes to rent, free bikes, GPS rental bikes. Put on the edge of our parking lot, 6 bikes that'll be there for use for our students. And just one more step of connecting us to our communities and doing some great things. That's my report. Thank you. Unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Nye. Questions of Dr. Nye? I'll just comment on the bike program. Nice work, Kathy and others. And the mayor, Palumbo, really took an opportunity to mention the college when we recently had a meeting. In fact, it was the first location he proudly spoke about, and being able to connect the Canandaigua campus to downtown and vice versa. So they're quite excited, along with the city manager Goodwin, and about this opportunity. So yet another way in which the community is looking to connect with the college. So fine work by everyone. Final questions for Dr. Nye. Okay, thank you. We have 7 liaison and committee reports here, and we'll start off with our student trustee, Trustee Sophie Partial. Please, Sophie.
Everybody, thank you. Okay, so I had kind of a long report this month, a lot of details on stuff I talked about with Jenny, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. You guys already know about the Middle Science Conference, which was really successful, and I did just want to mention that I know that a couple of professors allowed students in their classes to actually speak with them, which was really cool. And then also last month, we had 2 big mental health events. The first one was a guest speaker who talked about how childhood experiences shape like our current experiences as we grow older and our mindset. And then the second event was a documentary about suicide survivors, which a link should have been sent to you guys as well to watch it. And Jenny really was interested to hear your thoughts on it if you had any to share. And then the Flick chatbot is still really successful. It has a really high amount of active student engagement. And then the last thing I did want to mention was the application for the new student trustee and other student corporation positions is going out, and it's due back on April 15th. I've really enjoyed my journey of being a student trustee. I've learned a lot and I've met so many people, and I've just really enjoyed this so much. But I do want to experience other positions here, so I'm planning on shifting my focus probably to student corporation, possibly running for president or maybe the student activities committee board director. I do have another student who's interested in being the student trustee. Her name is Alani Rodriguez, and she's a pre-nursing student. I sent her the link to the YouTube streaming so she could watch it and just see what's going on and what we do here. And she's really interested to just see what it's like. So hopefully that works. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Sophie, and thank you for your continued work. We look forward, of course, welcoming you for these next several months in terms of the representation of the students, the very reason why we are all here. So thank you for that, and thank you for actually lining up someone else that might have some interest in the coming year. So we look forward to saying hi to you on campus even after your time here on the board is done. So fine work.
Thank you.
Trustee Essels, the ERM committee and audit committee. Any updates this month?
No, nothing specific to report, although I would invite Dr. Nye or Adam to make any comments that they wish to make, if any.
Adam, go ahead.
Wasn't what not prepared to make any comments, I guess.
I've got none.
Okay. All right.
So next month we'll have a little bit more, and thanks for that. We understand. Board development. We have 2 trustees, Mihalik and Abraham. One of you might want to take that, please.
We haven't had the opportunity to meet as a committee since, so I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
Just to follow up on Santa's comment, hopefully we'll have a chance to regroup now that Middle States is sort of on its way, and after the board development piece at the retreat on the Aspen Institute, we'll have some additional stuff hopefully coming forth again to the committee, to the board from our committee.
Terrific. We look forward to that. Thank you. The College Association, Trustee Hamlin.
Carol, you can chime in if you want. The report I have is from the last meeting, which is in March, but at this point, there are 273 students in the suites, and there are 49 children at the child care center. And they're going to be buying new washers and dryers at the suites. and I'm still looking possibly for a part-time office assistant. That's my report.
Okay,
I can add that the part-time office assistant position has been filled.
Oh, good.
Which is excellent news, given the environment in terms of the marketplace. And I can also add that we have an accepted employment offer from a new executive director who will start as of May 23rd.
Okay. Congratulations. Welcome. That's terrific. Fine work. Fine work. Questions? Trustee Hamlin or Dr. Abatis? Okay. The foundation, Trustee Geis. Maybe a small event we recently had.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Oh, that's right. We haven't met since the Vintners and Valentines. Well, it was excellent as always. Very nice turnout, no issues. Very, very nice evening. And Louis, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to make a tally yet or not.
Yeah, everyone, this is Lewis. I'll give you some preliminary number. It's not final yet. We're gonna hover somewhere around $80,000, either a little bit above or a little bit below. The cost calculation is still coming through. It's just a little slow. The only thing I will tell y'all is costs were more.
Sure.
Just because everything in the world costs more. But we're still waiting on that. We were super excited with that. Everything couldn't have worked out better. It was great to be back in person.
Thank you. Questions on the foundation from fellow trustees? Okay, onward and upward there. On a statewide level, NYCCT, Trustee Mihalik, and thanks for having those emails continue to come our way and keeping us informed. What might you highlight that's upcoming?
The Board of Directors meeting is this Saturday.
Yeah.
So I will have a report for you after the Board of Directors meeting. The nominations for awards for 2022 will be opened after the Monday after. So I guess this coming Monday. And there is a new award that is being considered. I will wait until we meet as a Board of Directors to finalize that, to let you know that. But it was, the awards were extremely well received last year. And so NYCCT wanted to be able to highlight that, and based on a confluence of events, the focus on student success, the focus on sustainability of our colleges, et cetera, they felt it was time for some additional focus on that as far as recognition. So I think those are the two main things coming up. I do believe that there is an educational module planned for either later in the month or in May, prior to the end of the year. And if anyone has any interest in serving on either the board of NYCCT, or is interested in being involved at any level, whether it's a small role or a larger role, please let me know. We will be looking to nominate people to committees and officers.
Thank you, Donna. And again, we appreciate your past and continued and ongoing work. And this professional development as a group is really important. And it's been impressive in terms of the offerings that you continue to provide as a group. So thank you for that. And that gives us lots of pathways to really try to be better. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll take your feedback to the board.
Alrighty. Thanks again. Our final liaison and committee report is Student Corp, Trustee Cushman.
All right. Well, it's another energetic and very engaged Student Corp meeting on April Fool's Day. One of the really interesting things that they're doing, and they did this last year as well, is a gift bag for all graduates that are mailed to all the graduates. Now, I think it's important to understand that not every graduate comes to the graduation, and they are recognized, through the Student Corp. And Sophie, I don't know if you can comment on what is in that gift bag.
I have not seen that gift bag, but I could learn more about it and let you guys know next time if you want.
I know they were working on something. I wasn't sure if it had gotten finalized, but
yeah, I haven't seen it.
I think it's such a great gesture with students that are not able to attend, or I know when I graduated, I was starting my job that day. My son was born that day.
Wow.
So I did not make it. I think it's a great way for us to to include them in the graduation, even if they can't be there, and build a relationship for the future, for them to come back. Overall observation is these students have just an overall sense of concern for student well-being and all the things that they're doing. They're really focused on student well-being and belonging. It's a theme for the activities that they're doing. And finally, just equity in everything they're doing. So while they do talk about DEI, it's not a separate item. It's integrated into everything that they're doing. I think it's just fantastic. It really reflects, I think, all the things that we're concerned about and we'd like to assist with as well. That's it, Chairman Martin.
Thank you. Questions of Trustee Cushman? Nice report. Thank you for that. Dr. Nye, you might have another comment or two following up on your president's report.
Thank you, Trustee Martin. I just wanted to, a couple things that I neglectfully left out. I just wanted to bring them to your attention. I didn't look at my third page of my notes. First off, I want to highlight, we are still waiting for the governor's budget. And the governor's budget means that the difference that we're looking at, that we're hoping for, is about $650,000 of additional funding if the governor will approve our floor that we requested at the 1920 level. If not, it'll be at this year. But you know what? That's even better than last year. And so it's not bad, but it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the governor's budget and what's holding it up. Second, I wanted to highlight two things that I didn't previously, just say thank you and publicly acknowledge these events. The first one was the cannabis convention we had recently, right before Middle States. And Jonathan Kaiser led that effort. And we really appreciate everything that went into that, Jonathan, the folks that worked it out. It was really special. I believe it was over 200 people, 240 people, Jonathan.
Wow.
And some of the cabinet members just got that we'll talk tomorrow that we're ahead of the curve. SUNY has, I think it's 3 million that they're putting out for creating for grants to create better workforce development programs. And because of Jonathan's leadership in that area, it's we're way ahead of the curve. Hopefully we can get some good funding. And then finally, even though it's already been said before, I think it needed to be said again in this group. And that's two words: Middle States. And really do want to thank the efforts of the leadership, starting with Deborah Ortloff and the executive team of Maureen Mosferi and Michael Fisher, and everybody, to include the trustees that were involved in that. That's a very, very strong Middle States report. In fact, I'll just give you a comment that was sent to me minutes after we got done, and it's by someone who I respect greatly, and because they were a successful president, and that's Dr. Barb Risser, who said in her career, it was the best report she'd heard. So thank you to all the leadership. Deborah, thank you for your overall herding all the stray cats, and really appreciate it. It's a team effort, but it takes leadership, as some people tell me, and thank you, and way to go. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Thank you very much. Those are
May-
nice acknowledgements. And please.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. I just want to echo Dr. Nye that the amount of preparation that went in from the book that we got, it was hand delivered, but all of the detail and the preparation on the part of Dr. Ortloff, for me as a newer trustee, not having been through this before, I was bordering on being overwhelmed about being ready for this, but going into it, it made it really easy. I just felt, for me, I was able to breeze through that interview session, and I really want to just acknowledge the work of Deborah and your whole team on that.
You're here.
Yeah, well said. Well said. We all felt prepared, didn't we? I mean, almost to a person. And kudos to all the trustees. Everyone was involved, engaged, and it's clear you did your own homework. So fine work. We continue our meeting, and we move to now 2 executive sessions. And please, if you would, allow me to read into the record. Executive session number 1, to discuss matters regarding collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, New York Public Officers Law, Article 7, Section 105, letter E as in Edward. And then we'll move to executive session number 2, to discuss matters regarding the employment history of a particular person or matters leading to the employment. Section 105, letter F as in Frank. So please, first a motion, then a second to move into these two executive sessions, please.
This is George.
This is-
I'll move.
This
Thank you,
is
George.
Jeff. I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. We'll see everyone on the flip side in the link for executive session. We'll adjourn after that and come back to public. Thank you all. See you in a bit. Okay, I see 8, waiting for 2 more.
Steve, before we adjourn, can I have just a couple of seconds for a brief comment?
Sure, in our public portion here. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Looks like we have a full complement. So before we exit the formal meeting, we are now back in public session. Trustee Estes.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate what was said a little earlier, but I've been involved in every capital project at the college since the late 1980s. And the presentation that Kathy made this evening and the way that project's been managed has been really outstanding. And she deserves some recognition for that, as does LaChase. They've developed quite a history with the college and have been very, very helpful. So kudos to Kathy and LaChase. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Final matters, final issues, final anything to bring in front of this Board of Trustees. Seeing none, we're at 7:59 p.m. Please, a motion to adjourn in a second.
I'll move, George.
Thank you, George, in a second.
Barb?
Thank you, Barb. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a pleasant holiday this upcoming couple of weeks and stay well. We'll see everyone in May, if not before. Have a pleasant evening.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, folks. Take care.
Happy birthday, Steve.